Welcome to Five Friday Feedback. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that you guys have enjoyed the now this is the sixth part of Money Lies. We started this podcast with like 15 Money Lies, and I told Dominic we'll probably get it done in like an episode. And here we are at part 3, I guess part 3.5 of doing this. So please, I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll never do this again. I promise.
Never. My head was shaved when we started this, and now I've got a full head of hair. So yeah, it's been eons since we began this, but we are super excited to finally end this chapter of the Fi Guys and talk about the Fi Friday feed. We're basically recapping Monday's episode of part 3. I'm excited to get right into it. If you didn't listen to Monday's podcast, that's okay, because we're going to be recapping it, and we're going to be doing a mailbag after that, which is where someone from the community writes into us and we give our advice and chat a little bit about it. But with that being said, let's get right into our recap. Where should we start, Chris? Where do we start?
Let's start with the biggest one that I think we talked about that I think set most people off. And I understand why it does, because it is inflammatory. That is money lie number 12. That is renting is always throwing money away.
Yep. That's a common one. A lot of people believe it. A lot of people don't believe it. But would you say most people believe that renting is throwing away money? Or would you think the opposite?
No, I think that most people think that renting is throwing away money. I think that most people in America say that if you're not buying your house, then you're stupid. Like, why would you do that? You can just buy your house and now you're building at least equity in the house. But what they fail to think about is that when you rent, you have flexibility, and more importantly, you have controlled costs. Because a lot of people, what they do when they buy their house is they'll go ahead and they'll overextend themselves. Maybe they get approved to buy, I don't know, $500,000 home. But then they'll go ahead and then they look at the houses in their price range, and then we never buy the house that's, at 450 or a little bit below our top. Because when they give you your home loan, that's saying this is the tippy top, $500,000, $1 million, whatever it is. That's the tippy top we are willing to approve you. So what do people do? They go ahead and they tell their realtor, this is how much I can spend. This is the tippy toppest. It's basically the exact same thing as getting a credit card. And the credit card has a $10,000 limit. And now you're like, I need to go and find something that is worth $10,000. And then if I find something that's worth $11,000, I'll just get another credit card and I'll get that approved for sure.
Stack it. Yep. Yeah. That's a quick way to get 11 grand. I mean, honestly, yeah. Better yet, just pull the cash out of the card, and then just go to a different country, just move to a different country. You could actually start a pretty nice life in Thailand with $11,000, if we're told. Not financial advice. In fact, not advice at all. Purely satire. But that being said, a lot of people believe that renting is throwing away money, and I'm curious to see what the community thinks about that. If you guys would like to leave a comment down below, if you're listening over on YouTube or wherever you are listening, I would like to hear what you guys think, because I think society is kind of shifting a lot. Because our generation, Chris, it's becoming more and more difficult to buy a home, purchase a home, even qualify for a home because of the prices, because of the wages where they are right now, unfortunately. So renting is kind of a lot of people's only option, right?
Yeah.
And that's a pretty bad place to be if you have the mental framework that I'm just throwing away my money every month. But if you can shift your mental framework, like we talked about last podcast, and really think about how, I don't know if you've ever paid for a roof, guys. It's very expensive. It could be $10,000, could be $15,000, could be even more. What about an air conditioner? Easy $8,000 right there. Easy, right? These things go out, and the landlord has to come up with the money to do that. And here in Arizona, if they don't get that air conditioner fixed within 2 days, well, you're going to be facing some very bad things from the government. That being said, it seems like a lot of places in company-wise are moving to a subscription model. And if you think about it, renting is a subscription model. Now, some things should be on subscription model, right? Some things not so much. Renting is one of those things where it's a toss-up, right? Some people say a house is a great investment. Well, if the house is paying you, then yeah, it would be considered an investment, right? Usually, an investment is something that brings you money in return. Am I correct or am I off on that one, Chris?
No, you're exactly right. Yeah, an investment is something that has a high degree of potential to put money in your pocket.
Yes. And as a homeowner, let's say I'm in a house right now. It's a beautiful library. Thank you. I'm in my house right now. It's an investment. It's totally an investment, right? I'm I pay the electric bill, I pay the mortgage, I pay to have the garden chopped into a nice, topiary that looks like the Five Guys. It's my investment. Well, yes and no, right? Because usually, like we said, an investment is something that makes you money. So buying a home, you're not necessarily, what am I going for here, Chris? It's not necessarily a great investment or a bad investment. It's just something you do, or how do you want to look at this?
I don't look as a house as an investment. A house is where you live. I think that too many people, they go through their whole life looking for quote unquote good investments, things that they could talk to their buddies at the golf course or at the bar, saying like, I'm invested in this, I'm invested in that. A house is just a house, and if you keep on looking at your home as an investment, you're never going to really be there, because one of the best things, or one of the good ways to be a good investor, is to not get attached to your investments, to just look at your investments objectively, look at the truth of what's going on. But when you purchase a house, that's where you live. That's a representation of you. That's where you lay your head at night within those walls. It's going to be really hard to make an objective decision when you have that much emotion tied up into this thing called the home. So that's why, if you want to go into investing, then you want to get rental properties. You want to get things you can look at objectively, like a business. But it's really difficult when you look at your home as a business. I think it makes it harder for our generation. Earlier, you talked about millennials, Gen Y, how difficult it is to buy a house in this day and age. And, for our parents and maybe our grandparents, are like, why don't you just go and buy a house? We were able to do it at your age. We worked a minimum wage job. Just your dad worked a minimum wage job. We went and bought a house. And that's how we are so successful. Look how much money we have in our house now.
Yeah.
And if you go around and you ask your parents, you ask your grandparents, hey, how did you guys become successful? And they're like, oh, well, we just went and bought a house for 6 raspberries and a nickel, and now our house is worth $1 million. Yeah. And we're going to just keep on taking equity out of the house to fund our retirement. Not a great idea, but that's what most people are doing, because most people are not financially literate. But it really is the blind leading the blind. So if you can detach yourself from that and say, maybe for your generation, you were able to purchase a house and it worked out for you, and that's wonderful that it did. For our generation, that's not happening right now. Now, do I believe things will change? Most definitely things will change. All things that have a beginning have an end. Things will eventually change. And when it does, we'll have the opportunity to buy those houses that we've been waiting on. And ideally, when we do, we'll also be able to buy that house and have good financial knowledge of how to invest, how to buy equity, how to buy investments outside of just our primary home. Because for other generations, that was the only method they had. And it's no longer that. We now have the ability to buy cryptocurrencies, stocks, bonds, everything from our cell phones, from an app. Immediately buy and sell. I'm not saying to go ahead and buy and sell constantly, but we have the ability to do that. And that's pretty damn cool. And yes, we can't buy a house, but we get that other thing in return.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I always want to feel like everything balances out in its own way, right? We won't necessarily have the ability as a generation to buy as many homes right now, but the ones who do own the homes right now, the baby boomers, they're not going to be around forever. And chances are their kids will either want to move into those homes or sell those homes, and the market will then be flooded with more homes, probably making the price a little bit. But, that's microeconomics and economics at large. And that's another 6-part episode that we're not going to get into right now. But, yeah, so the lie is that renting is throwing away money. And it's both true and not true. It's both correct and false at the same time. It's all about your plan, your goals, and how you see things. So to each their own. And a lot of these are going to be up into interpretation, right? Some of them, like the next one, is not up for interpretation. Not at all. And in fact, with that being said, do you want to, I wasn't sure, did you have a point on this one that you wanted to touch on?
Let's do it.
Let's
the
go
next
to
one
number 2.
is you can't build wealth without having a 6-figure salary.
Yeah. Total lie. You can be wealthy on a $50,000 salary. You can be wealthy even lower, right? But what is wealth to you? Wealth can mean a whole lot of different things, right? Before we can get to the goal, we must first define the goal, right? So what are we talking about here, Chris? How is it that we can still build wealth and be wealthy without making over $100,000.
But I think back in the day, $100,000 was like if you hit that, you hit the tippy top. And nowadays, you hear people are making millions, trillions, however much money they're making, and they're still not happy. They're still not wealthy, because if you're not controlling your costs, and your costs continue to go up as your income increases, you're never going to get ahead. You're always going to stay at sea level. Everything's going to keep on just rising lockstep with one another. As your income increases, your expenses increase. And unfortunately, what happens with most people is if they have bad money habits, their expenses actually increase faster than their income does. So they keep constantly trying to catch how much money or how much their life costs just to live. Makes for a very difficult thing to do. But there are some people in this world who, maybe you start out making less money. So you learn to live off of less money and be happy with that. And then maybe you realize that, hey, off of this less money, I can save some of it and eventually get out of it. And if you live off less, you need to only save less money to be financially independent, to be where you want to be. And those people that stay inside that maybe lower socioeconomic class for longer, some people are able to realize that, hey, I'm actually happy here. Yes, I can see that other people have fancy cars, fancy other things, but I have something they don't have. I have peace. I have serenity. I have the ability to go to my job and leave and be happy with that. So they're able to actually build wealth faster because what they need to be happy, to be wealthy, is substantially lower than somebody who's constantly let that lifestyle inflation go up, go up, go up, go up, go up, go up, go up. And now that, my baseline happiness is at $1 million a year. That's how much money I need a year to spend. Well, that means you need at least $25 million to retire. Where someone can say like, hey, I'm happy at $40,000 a year. Well, that means I only need $1 million to retire if you're just ruling the rule of 25. It's not guaranteed, but it's a rough estimate. It gives me a goalpost. So one person can be happy at $40,000 a year, and what they need to retire is what somebody else needs just to live, just to be happy for a year.
You touched on something there that kind of reminded me about number one and some different things, right? A lot of people in the new generation, they're looking for flexibility, right? They're not looking for, the big mansion. They're not looking for the big salary, right? They're not looking to stay with a company for 40 years, right? And build a career. Most probably aren't, right? They're looking to build skills and to be flexible, right? And the thing with being flexible is sometimes when you need to be flexible, you got to cut the fat off the bone. Right? So they know how to live below their means, right? I know that you went through that path. I went through that path. And, that's how we got here, right? I think, I was having this conversation with my family recently, and they're like, you need to find a job where you can get in and start moving up. And to me, it was such a strange concept because me personally, I want to learn skills so that I can, as a person, have more value to the marketplace. That's just the way I think, right? So that I can move from job to job where I need to. As long as the job serves my purpose, then I will stay. If it doesn't, then it's time for me to move on and learn a new skill. That's kind of where I'm at right now. And a goal of mine was always to make over six figures, obviously, like a lot of young boys, right? A lot of young men. But it's funny. I didn't grow up in a bad way. My childhood was great. And I'm going to rant for just a quick second, 30 seconds, right? But I realized that what it takes to make me happy is a lot simpler than six figures. The quote, like, men are simple creatures. I'm patient zero. Like, I'm literally patient zero. You'll see at the end of today's podcast where my win of the week, I'm not going to dox it. I'm not going to give it away just yet. You'll have to wait. But it's very simple. I'm a very simple creature. And I think one of the things that we talk about on the podcast all the time is you have to know yourself, right? And with number two, you can't build wealth without having six figures, right? What is wealth to you? What does that mean to you? What is success to you? And it all starts with knowing yourself and knowing what you need and what you don't need. Chris made this point a few podcasts back. And it's really stuck with me. When people have a goal, they always say what they're willing to do to get to the goal. But they never say, what are they willing to give up to get to the goal? And for me, in this context, right, the goal of wealth, what are you willing to give up? Maybe that's a question you need to be asking yourself. Are you willing to miss birthdays? Are you willing to not fly home for the holidays sometimes? Are you willing to, rice and beans for a couple weeks? Are you willing to make these certain sacrifices in order to get you to that next level? And those are conversations you need to be having with yourself. I don't know about daily, but you definitely need to be having them, right? Is there any questions you think people should be asking themselves right now, Chris, in regards to the first two money lies?
In regards to the first two, the biggest thing that I've always done is question everything. Just question everything, especially the things that you think you know 100%, because those are the scariest ones. Because those truths that you don't question, if they are wrong, are the things that are going to hold you back indefinitely. Even the truth of, man, if I could make six figures, if I could just make $100,000, I'd finally be happy. Well, what if six figures isn't enough? What if you told yourself I can make seven figures, eight figures, a trillion, whatever it is? Going your whole life believing something that isn't true, just to find out at the end, would be pretty terrible. I know we talked about it once before, but one of the biggest things that kind of changed my life was reading the 5 biggest regrets of the dying. And one of those biggest regrets was, I wish that I chose to be happier. I wish I chose to be happy in life. And for me, it was a revelation to realize that happiness is a choice. Because for so long, I believed 100%, I knew, at my core, that happiness was a destination. Happiness was something that you got to. And it wasn't until I read that I finally was able to question myself, that the truth that I thought I knew, that happiness is at a place, it's in a thing, it's at a destination. I was able to finally break it down and realize that, oh my God, the thing that I thought was true was actually false. The thing that I knew 100% was real was not real. And then I got to choose that I can have happiness right here, right now, even if things are not perfect, because things will never be perfect. And the moment they are perfect, you will immediately habituate to it, and they won't be perfect anymore.
What was that process like, knowing that your reality just got flipped upside down, where happiness was once a destination, it was actually a friend standing right next to you on your journey?
We've talked about this before, but there's a show called Ted Lasso.
Yes.
And in the show Ted Lasso, there's this character, Roy Kent. And if anyone knows who I'm talking about, Roy is he's the star soccer player. He's aggressive. He's just angry. He's mad at the world all the time. And when you first meet Roy, he's not a very likable character, because he's rude. He's mean. If you're a jerk, then you like him. I liked him immediately, but most people don't like him. But you get to see him as he progresses through the show, becoming more and more open to things, as he realizes that what he took for granted, what he thought was true, is completely wrong. And you'll get to see these moments in the show where Roy has an experience and he rejects it. He's like, no, that's not true. That's not the way the world works. And he leaves. And then eventually life teaches him, or maybe another experience teaches him, that whatever he thought was untrue actually is true. And he gets to these moments where he just stops and he just screams, F. He actually says the word, of course.
Yes.
And he yells it really, really loud. And he realizes that everything that he thought was true was false. And I do the exact same thing. There are moments where I'll be meditating or walking or listening to a podcast or an audiobook, and I'll be thinking about something, and then I'll realize that the matrix that I constructed for myself is completely false. And all you can do in those moments is, don't sit there and be like, oh my God, I'm so stupid that I've realized this for the longest time. Just sit there and be like, oh my God, how lucky am I to have had this moment right now, and not this moment at the time of death. I get to now have the ability to choose to change. So what I do is I do the exact same thing. I'll take out my podcast, I'll stop, and I'll be like, whoa. Or sometimes I'll be like, F. I can't believe that I've gone for the past 30 some odd years thinking this, just to realize now that it was wrong. But the worst thing I could do is tell myself, oh, I've been doing this for 30 something years. I don't want to admit that I've been wrong for 30 something years. So I better just keep going with this wrong thought. I'd rather change right now and continue to live a better life today, rather than just stick with it, because that's the way I've always done it.
And change is
freeing and angering.
Yeah. Freeing and angering. Interesting. I had a moment similar to that, last night. It was I was cooking, and for me, whenever I'm cooking a recipe for the first time, it takes me forever. Oh, it took me 2 hours, and this was not a complex recipe, but it was multiple things along the way. And I felt I was man, dude, I hate this. I'm at the midst of a breakdown. But I know that at the end, when I win, it'll be good, right? I got to the end of the meal. Finally, it was done. It turned out great. It was delicious, right? And I was just yeah, that's right. did this. I did this. Like, I was so happy, right? And I'm grateful that what I've learned from this podcast, I'm grateful that what I've learned from this podcast is you need to reframe everything. And to me, in that moment, I knew that I was going to be happy. I knew it. And I decided, like, you know what? I'm going to be happy right now. And I just decided to be happy. Because happiness is a choice. And you said something about change earlier. I just wanted to touch back on that again. You said also that we fear the things we don't understand. And I love that quote because I'm someone who lives with fear, right? I live with a good amount of fear, right? And a lot of it is irrational fear, right? Stuff that I can control, stuff that I can grasp, harness, and maybe not conquer, but deal with, right? And I know all of us deal with fear. I know all of us do. But I hope that that quote, we fear things we don't understand, sticks with everybody today. Because the more we can really understand our fears and whether they're rational or irrational or something we can prevent or not prevent, the more knowledge we can take on in regards to that, the better we can be. And that's what we're all here for, right? To seek is to understand. Or what was the quote you said from last podcast? It was like a gravestone level quote. It was like the best quote I've ever heard. It was, seek to understand more. That's why we're here. And I feel like I'm ranting a little bit, so we'll get back on track, back on topic. I guess our purpose right now is to seek to understand more.
And that's the purpose of Five Friday Feedback, is to rant, is to just kind of go off on these random tangents and see what happens. I'm going to bring us back, though, to ground level and talk about the next of our money lies, which was retirement means you stop working. Yeah. And I think this one could probably be tied in with our next money lie, which money will solve all of your problems. Because I think so many people think, hey, once I retire, I'll have enough money, all my problems will be solved. But retirement isn't the goal. Retirement is a goal, but the real goal is something very different than not working. It's getting to work on things that you like, being able to spend time with people that you enjoy, being able to spend time doing things that you love. Maybe that means your animals. Maybe that means your kids. Maybe that means your grandkids. Maybe that just means plants. I don't know. Or rocks. Whatever your thing is your thing. And that's totally cool. But what we can see is that money, even with the next one, money doesn't solve all your problems. So many people think like, once I have all the money, I'll be able to retire. I'll finally be happy. But then they retire and they're not happy because the real goal was that money just was the great facilitator to allow you to do the things that you want to do. The things you thought you wanted, the truth that you believed 100% was true was, I want to sit on a beach all day drinking margaritas. And then you finally get there to realize that, oh my God, that's not actually what I wanted. I wanted something more. I wanted to be challenged in my own way. I wanted to be my own boss, be in control of my life. I wanted to be able to dictate how my day went. When I was going through like the midst of some of the most severe like depression I ever had in my life, it was after I was quote unquote financially independent. Once I like hit Coast Fi, once I felt like I don't have to do anything, I was actually going to take a year off of work and just not do anything and just recharge. It is really scary to wake up in the morning and not know how you're going to fill your day. To just be like, am I just going to sit around all day, literally doing nothing and waiting for my wife to come home so I can bother her? Like, that's actually probably more scary than having a full day, is having a completely empty day and wondering how you're going to fill it up. Now, over time, you realize that the day could fill itself up pretty quickly if you allow it to. But if you're sitting there anxious of like, how am I going to fill up this day? Am I just going to sit there and be bored all day? Because so many people think they want to go through life just to feel bored. Like, oh man, I just wish I could feel bored. And the moment they feel bored, they immediately revolt against it. Yep. Because there are a few things in life that people are afraid of. Three of the major things in life that people fear. Number one is other people. Number two is death. Number three is their own mind. And having nothing to do all day makes you confront number three.
Yeah, most of life's problems come from the fact that we can't sit alone by ourselves with no distractions. Especially with the increase of social media and attention retention editing. People are so glued to busy, noise, nonsense. It's so important to be able to just be with your thoughts. I say it all the time. Some of my favorite times of the day is literally when I'm just taking a shower. There's nothing, no one's going to bother me. I don't have my phone. I'm just sitting there thinking. I'm standing, not sitting in the shower. But I'm just thinking. I will admit I have sat in the shower. It's kind of fun. Feel like a samurai in the rain. It's pretty cool. Don't judge me. It's my own story. Anyway, but I think it's so important to go into those meditative states where you can just understand the machine, understand the brain, understand who you are. Because a lot of us, we create plans without ever thinking, like, it'd be like this. I'm going to get from Arizona to California, LA, right, in 2 hours by car. I have a Buick. How am I going to do it? Right? You drew up the plan without understanding how the car works, without understanding that there's speed limits, without understanding that there's stoplights, right? The same thing for your brain. It's better if you get to know yourself and how you work, what's your strengths, what your weaknesses are, and then you build a plan around that to both move around the weaknesses, get better at the weaknesses, and play on your strengths. Most of us just create a plan. I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week. It's like, okay, we need a little bit more, a little bit more detail, right? So I think it's always important to keep the mind active. And retirement is looked at, I feel like, as like a long vacation. On vacation, what are you doing? Probably nothing. Just relaxing. How long can you relax? I know, Chris, you go on a lot of vacations. I'm sure there's a number of days that you can you peek out where you're like, I want to come home. For me, it's about 11 days. After that 1 week goes by, I'm like, this is great. After that, I'm like, dude, I gotta get back to work. I have no purpose. How do you feel?
It would depend, because normally when my wife and I travel, we're making memories. We're doing things. We're not relaxing on our vacations.
Okay.
It is a lot of like going out, exploring, having fun, seeing the world, meeting people, doing stuff like that. We don't do a lot. I think we've only done like 2 vacations where we just sit on a beach every day. And yeah, for that, you'd probably have me for like 3 days and then I'm bored. But majority of our vacations are like true adventures where we could do it indefinitely, or at least at this point, I think we could do it indefinitely, because we're just having fun every day, doing new things, having experiences that we've never had. That's the way that we like to travel. I understand people that like to travel where it's just like, I'm going to sit on a beach. I'm not going to do anything but read my book.
Yeah.
But for me, if it's just, I want to sit on a beach and read a book all day, I mean, I could do that in my house maybe not the beach, but I can sit in my house and read a book. So when I go on an adventure, I want to have an adventure, something I can't do at home. Now, in the resource of time, I would like to move on to number 5 of our money lies, and that is investing is too risky. And I think this is a big one, especially now as the markets are a lot more volatile. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world. But you have to remember that we don't invest for right now. We invest for the future. And the little hiccups that happen along the way, if you just scroll back on your mouse, scroll back, you'll see that a chart of most stocks, you look at the chart of the market and you look at the chart of the market itself, like the S&P 500 or the Dow or the NASDAQ, you'll see a pretty nice 45-degree angle up into the right. But if you want to take at any moment and just scroll in, it looks like an EKG with that person's having like the craziest arrhythmias ever. So it's important to take that wider perspective. Investing is not risky if you understand, if you have a wider perspective. The only things that are scary and risky to us are the things that we don't understand. So seek to understand more. Seek to learn more, to gain more. And if you can't do it yourself, reach out to somebody that can help you. Because the biggest risk is not doing anything.
Yeah.
Because no matter, if you just keep your money in cash, under your bed, wherever it is, I guarantee it will lose money to inflation. Because the federal government is hooked on the drug of printing more money. And I don't see that stopping anytime soon.
Number 6, you should avoid credit cards altogether. What are your thoughts on that? I know you're big into the credit card hacking. You certainly don't believe that you should avoid credit cards, but you understand that it is a tool, right? It can cut you real deep if you're not careful. But it can also lead to some great opportunities, correct?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I use credit cards daily.
Yeah.
I just applied for a new credit card recently. In terms of credit limit, it is ungodly high. And I don't even touch any of it. I use my credit card strategically. I use them like a debit card. I know how much money is coming in every month and I know how much money is going out. And I don't spend more than is coming in. For people to say that you should avoid credit cards altogether, that's just like saying, oh, you should avoid all hammers, or you should avoid, hammers kill people. Cars kill people. Avoid all of them. They're just tools. They get you to their destination. They're tools to be used in life. And if you don't understand them, and if you don't know how to use them, that's not an issue with the tool. That's an issue with you. And the nice thing about it is an issue with the tool can never be fixed. That means the tool is broken. But the issue with you, that can be changed at any time because you have the ability to change. The tool does not. The tool just is.
Can't blame a hammer for smashing your hand when you're the one holding the hammer. It's true. It's true. It's so important to use these tools wisely. You know, it's just like a knife. You can cut yourself pretty deep. But where does one start for credit cards? Right? I know usually at a young age, someone will co-sign for a card with their parents, right? And go that route. But how do they get disciplined on using it? Right? Does it start with knowing what's coming in, knowing what's coming out, knowing your expenses, and getting a handle on that and being disciplined? Am I missing anything?
Yeah, you're going to hate this answer, but it depends. And it depends on the individual and how they are. You know, Sun Tzu said, know thyself. If you're the kind of person that if you know, like, hey, I just got a credit limit of $1,000, I need to spend that $1,000 right now, a credit card probably isn't for you. But that isn't an issue with the credit card. That's an issue with you. Just because the credit card company gave you a $10,000 limit, that does not mean that you have to spend $10,000. And if you believe you have to, that's not an issue with the credit card company. It's an issue with you. You need to know yourself and figure that out. So yeah, I would say the first step is know how much money is coming in. And then be able to figure out if that as much money is coming in, how much money is going to my fixed costs, to my rent, to my car payments, to my bills, to my current debts that I already have. Because that money I have to pay for. Now, after that, of what's remaining, how much am I willing to spend? And then from there, like, how much can I save? You should probably do, how much can I save? How much am I willing to sacrifice to save for my future? And then from there, how much am I willing to spend from that? But most people don't do that. They go through their entire life looking how much money's coming in. They don't care about how much money is going out. You know, if I make $1,000 a week, then I say, like, I have $1,000 to spend without forgetting that, oh yeah, mortgage is $500, car payment is $200. I don't know, gas is another $100. Well, if that's the case, now I only have $200 to remember to play with. But everyone goes through life saying, like, oh no, I have $1,000 to play with. And then they'll increase their lifestyle. And then at the end of the day, the only way they can get out of it is either by cutting their lifestyle, which is hard and no one ever does it. So everyone decides to do what I'll do is I'll just make more money. And then the moment they start making more money, their lifestyle increases again. And they get stuck in the hamster wheel. They're stuck in the matrix and they can't see beyond it because it's a matrix of their own choosing. It's the hamster wheel that they put themselves in and they keep on running. When all they have to do is stop and take a step to the left and get the hell out of it. But they can't see it because it's a prison of their own making.
That is quite deep. That is quite deep. I think that'll probably end our recap of Monday's episode and really end the series of Money Lies. If you guys want to go check out the other episodes, feel free. There's a lot of interesting and maybe even some controversial money lies in there that I think you might be conflicted and you might even believe still. So highly recommend you check those out. With that being said, do you have any final quotes, any final things you want to say to kind of end off this chapter of Fi Guy history?
I would say for the money lies, for all of them, the action step pretty much was question everything. Question what you think is true. Because those things that you believe 100% to be truth are the things that are going to hold you back the most if they are incorrect. And most likely, the thing that you think is true is incorrect. Because whenever we think something is true, we'll put it into it is always true. It is always true. And hopefully if you've learned something from us, things are very, very, very rarely always. They're very rarely binary, yes or no. There's always ambiguity. There's always gray area. And I just use the word always. And I think that's the only time you can use the word always.
Gotcha. Sith. He deals in absolutes.
Sith. He did it.
He did it. Well, that is going to conclude that chapter of Fi Guys history. We're going to be moving on to a segment we love to call Viewer Mailbag. We call it Fi Friday Feedback Viewer Mailbag. This is where a member of the community writes into us, and we read their letter out loud, obviously, while you write into us. And then Chris and I, we kind of give our 2 cents on it. We usually end with a question or some advice needed, but let's get into this week's Viewer Mailbag. So the title on this one is rough. I told my parents to buy near the peak, and now I feel terrible. Oof, gotcha. The age-old trap of giving financial advice when you shouldn't be. I love it. Alrighty. Dear Fi Guys, howdy. Howdy. I need to get this off my chest right now because I feel like the biggest clown on Wall Street. For the past 2 years, I've been practically begging my parents, who, like many Asian parents, are ultra conservative with their money, to invest in US stocks. I've given them the whole spiel about how inflation is eating away their savings, how the market has historically trended up over time, how they're missing out on potential long-term gains by keeping everything in cash. I mean, I really laid it on thick. Well, 2 months ago, they finally caved. Gotcha. You know, when convincing someone, you never want them to cave. You want them to, you want them to, this is a great idea, right? Everybody, it should be a happy moment. It shouldn't be like, I defeated you. You can't, like, that's, just a heads up. Anyway, little 2 cents in there. They put in around $200,000 into SPY, SPY, and another $100K into NVIDIA. A move I was genuinely proud of at the time. And what happens? The market takes a nosedive. Not just a dip, not just a little correction. I mean an actual free fall. Now they're sitting at a loss, staring at me like I personally went and torched their money. Nice. Yeah. And knowing Asian parents, oof.
Yeah, you're done.
You're done. You're done. You're actually cooked. It's over for you.
Less
it's not
favorite
over
son,
for you.
done.
Yeah. You've been excommunicated from the family, I'm sure. And honestly, I don't even blame them for freaking the heck out. These aren't wide-eyed YOLO investors trying to ride the chaos like a roller coaster. They're real people with real money watching the market bleed out while I sit there telling them, just hold on. It'll bounce back. It always does. But every red day, that's another gut punch. Another reason for them to stare at me like I just walked into them, like I just walked them into a burning building. My God. Okay. And the part that really twists the knife, I should have seen this coming. I should have told them to slow walk their way in, dollar cost averaging instead of diving head first like they were invincible. I should have warned them that the market is absolutely unhinged when elections loom, that tariff wars are on the horizon, and the political circus acts turn investments into high-stakes gambling. I should have prepared them for the pure emotional warfare, and that is very true. It is truly emotional warfare. The pure emotional warfare that comes with watching your money evaporate in quite literally real time. Instead, I gave them confidence. The kind that makes them plunge right into the pool right before it turns into a frozen lake. Nice. I don't even know why I'm writing this. To vent, to confess, to scream into the void, hoping that the algorithm spits out a time machine. I wish. Wouldn't that be nice? Maybe if I put it here, it won't feel so heavy. Anyway, I hope you guys are holding up better than my portfolio. And if not, misery loves company. From preached to invest, they gave it their best. Now they just stress while I second guess. A nice rhyme. Wow, that is a heck of a story. No question there. No question needed. What advice?
I don't even know where to go from there.
I don't even know.
Yeah. I mean, I guess the biggest advice I have is never give investment advice to people if you don't know what you're doing. Because if you don't know what you're doing and you're right, then you get none of the benefit. They're not going to thank you for that. But if you're wrong, they're going to blame you every day for the rest of your life.
They're going to burn you at the stake. Yeah.
They are going to burn you.
They're going to burn you at the stake. Yeah. No, especially someone who's lived a difficult life, right? Especially someone who's translated their energy, their time into money, right? We know that money is energy, right? It's our life's energy, right? And to see that evaporated, it'd be basically like you had $100,000 invested, dropped 20%, $80,000. How long did it take you to make $20,000, right? Was it a couple months? Emotionally, physically, it's almost like you worked a couple months for free. because that money is gone if you sold. That's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I'm reading here is that he basically strong armed his parents into doing this, and yeah, you should never strong arm. Like, even for me as a financial advisor, I'm a professional at this. Like, people pay me to do this stuff.
Yeah.
My parents still don't invest money. Like, they still don't. A lot of my family doesn't. The way that I always looked at it is that I'm going to live the best life that I can, be here doing what I'm doing, and if people are ready and willing, then I'm here with open hands. Like, the Buddha kind of talks about, like, sitting there with open palms, not pushing your religion, your process, your anything on somebody. Just live the life to the best of your ability. And if people are ready to seek out that information, then you are there to provide it. But the more you push, the more people revolt. And it sounds like you pushed your parents over and over and over again until they finally gave in and caved. You put it in there. They finally caved. And when they did cave, they listened to you. And you told them to put all of their money, or I don't know how much, but $300,000 into the S&P 500 and NVIDIA. 1/3 of your parents' money that they're willing to put up, you put into one single stock. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we're trying to talk about, hey, let's dollar cost average them in, that's probably a good idea. Historically, dollar cost averaging is not the best thing to do. Historically, the best thing to do is just put all the money in. But you have to also understand that we're not just looking at the physics of finance, we're also looking at the feelings of finance. And you have to balance these two things. Just from a portfolio allocation standpoint, the S&P 500, about 20 some odd percent of it is made up by 6 companies. And one of those 6 companies is NVIDIA. So basically, you took your parents' money and you put, I don't know, more than 1/3 of it into one company. One company that makes microchips during a tariff war, when China may invade Taiwan, when all of these things are happening, you went ahead and put that in there. There was a lot better options that you could have done. If your parents were so worried about that, you could have even talked to them about using bonds, government bonds, a money market account, something like that. But instead you said, let's go crazy aggressive. Let's go 100% equities, and not just 100% equities, 1/3 of that 100% equities into one equity. That's a lot for anybody.
Yeah, it is. I think I don't know how old he is. I don't know how young he is, right? But it seems like there's a huge amount of ego and arrogance involved, and that's something you never want in the stock market. You never want to have a big ego. You never want to have a big arrogance in the stock market, right? Really anywhere. But I think you had good intentions, but very poor direction. Rather than pushing them to invest all their money in SPY and NVIDIA, why not push them to a financial advisor who's spent their life and is licensed and does this for a living? Someone who knows how to manage risk and properly build them a plan for their life rather than let's go gamble. Like, it's not good. It's like the difference between a salad and cocaine. One's healthy, one's not. Right? I mean, good intention, but horrible execution. And that's pretty much all I have here. I hope the market bounces back, and I hope that they can forgive you.
Here's the hard thing: is that the market will bounce back. Yeah. And if it doesn't bounce back, we have bigger issues than your parents' $300,000. The bigger issue is that you're trying to convince your parents that you're right, that you know what's best for them. Mm-hmm. As a financial advisor, like as someone who does this for a living, I still don't even do this for a living. I don't tell people what they have to do. The goal in life is to guide people. You guide, but they decide. It's their life. It's their life energy. They're the ones that did all this stuff. And the most important part about being a good long-term investor, a good investor in general, is understanding and perspective. Because the worst thing you can do is put the money in, it gets lit up 10, 20, 30%, whatever it is, and then you sell because now you've locked in those losses. But if your parents went into it with an open mind, understanding what was going on, the ins, the outs, the intricacies, saying, hey, I could put this money in today, this 300,000, and tomorrow if it dropped by 50%, I wouldn't care. I don't need that money. I don't know how old your parents are. I don't know how close to retirement they are. But if $300,000 was all of their money for retirement and you put into the stock market, just like, don't worry about it, guys. You need it in 2 years. So when you retire, this is the time to do that. You put your parents into a terrible situation. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully you're younger. Maybe you're 18, 19, whatever. Your parents are in their 40s or 50s, and they have time to ride this out. There's really nothing I can say at this point that's going to help this situation. Hopefully your parents can understand why you did this. You are absolutely right. It will come back, but when will it come back? I don't know. Nobody knows. Anyone that tells you that they do know when the stock market is going to come back is lying to you. But what you did is you told your parents that you knew it was going to happen, that you knew that if they put the money in, that it would work out for them on a certain time scale. Again, when you give someone investment advice, if it goes well and they gain, you get no credit. If it goes poorly, you get all the blame. You never want to strong arm people into doing things that's good for them. You want them to do it for themselves because they believe that it's right. It'd be like me telling somebody like 100%. If I'm like, Dominic, you need to go to jujitsu. Like jujitsu will change your life. It's the best thing ever. You're like, I don't know. And I'm like, bro, doesn't matter. I sign you up and I drag you in and you get your arm broken.
Yeah.
Like you're going to hate
pissed. I'm going to be friggin' pissed.
But if you see the benefit that it brings to my life, like you're like, Chris, I love that you're going to jiu-jitsu. I see how much it's changed you. I want to try it. And I tell you like, okay, just so you know, these are the risks of doing it. You're like, I still want to do it. Then I've just sat there with open palms and you came to me to make the change. So if you get hurt, if anything happens wrong, it's your decision. But instead you made it. You took their decision and you made it for them by strong arming them into making a decision that probably was not right for them, especially at the time. Somebody first time to the stock market, first time ever investing money in their life, I would not say to put all in the S&P 500 and one stock.
And it seems like, I know I talked a little bit about arrogance and ego before, but at the same time, it almost feels like they want their parents' approval, right? Like they want to help them. And you see your parents as helpless, right? If that is the case and you do truly feel like they need help, get them the proper help. If I broke my arm and Chris got me a Band-Aid, I'm going to be pissed. I would say, take me to a hospital. I need a doctor, right? If I have $300K and I'm older and I need help with my money, don't recommend me a stock. In fact, don't recommend me anything. But if you were, recommend a trained professional, right? A trained professional, right? Because make no difference picking one stock and putting a third of your money into it. Is it gambling? Yeah, it's pretty much
100% gambling.
Yeah, it's gambling. It's a little bit more complex, maybe, but it's gambling, right? And some things, don't get me wrong, I like gambling, right? But I don't gamble my parents' future on it. Okay, so just try to make a little bit better decisions going forward, and keep listening to the Five Guys.
I think the biggest thing you could do is probably question yourself, because you're absolutely right. Maybe the allocation you chose would have been perfect for you at whatever age you are, but not for your parents. Not at this time. So we wish you the best of luck, man. Big hugs from Arizona. Everything's going to be okay. I promise you, everything will be okay. It may not be okay in the way that you want it to be okay, but it will be okay.
100%.
Your parents are probably really mad at you, but they still love you, even if they hate you right now.
Yes.
They will still always be your parents. And with that, I say we move on to win of the week.
Please. You want to start us off?
Sure. So this one's pretty exciting. I got in right before it closed. I got approved for a new Southwest credit card that's going to get me a companion pass for another year once I spend $4,000. So excited to have 50% off every flight that I do domestically and to parts of Mexico. So I'm excited about that. That should be coming here in the next few days. I just applied for it 2 days ago and got approved pretty much immediately.
Heck yeah. Did, not to pry, but I'm just curious, are you doing, is the wife doing it as well or no?
So I never talked about this, but I'm going to talk about it right now as like a public service announcement.
Okay.
Normally what we do is we apply for the credit cards at the end of the year, and then we actually get them in January of the start of the year. So we get them for the whole year and then the next year. We've always done this where we get companion pass for 2 years because we have a hell of a hack that works really, really well. Well, my wife screwed up really bad. She got the card back in November and I told her, hey, you can spend up to this limit, but you can't actually hit the spending bonus until 2025 of January. Well, she went and spent all of her money in like a week. And then she hit the bonus in November of 2024, therefore getting her a bunch of points, but in the year that we didn't need it. So she ruined companion pass for both of us for 2 years. So I had to come up with a solution to try to fix it. So this is my solution. is getting a paying pass just for a year rather than the 2 years. And then Bryn's going to have to try again at the end of this year. But I think we're probably going to do it at the beginning of next year to make sure that she can't screw it up.
Yeah.
So public service announcement, if you have money that you can't get the points bonus, be very careful on how much money you're spending on the card. So it's okay if you mess up. I'm a money professional. I mess up. My wife messes up. It's okay. Just like this person who wrote in, you make mistakes, you learn from them, you move on.
Yep.
Was I frustrated? Oh yeah. Did I get upset with my wife? Oh yeah. She was upset. We were both upset, but we moved past it.
Yeah.
It's okay. You do what you can.
Yeah. And the important thing is everyone's still alive, everyone's still healthy, right? It's just money. Let's not glorify it, guys. Let's not glorify it. For my win of the week, I have a few win of the weeks. So a couple days ago, I recently discovered in my fridge, I had some heavy whipping cream, and I'm going to be honest, my win of the weeks are always different from Chris's by a lot, and here's what you're going to see. So I recently figured out that I had heavy whipping cream in my fridge. I didn't really think I had. So I decided that I was going to make some butter, right? So I'd never made butter. I've always wanted to try it. I made it. It came out really good, right? So because of, making butter, heavy whipping cream, part of it turns to butter, part of it turns to buttermilk, right? You know me, I love cooking. I love ranch. Ranch is like a big staple of my personality for some reason. And I made some homemade buttermilk ranch, right? Tastes awesome. Well, I needed the ranch to go with the meal I was cooking, right? You can kind of see how this all adds up into a very long time. So the meal I was making was this Cajun hot honey chicken tenders. Let me tell you, they were so freaking good. Oh my goodness. And all of it was from scratch. It was all from scratch. So now I know how to make fried chicken now. So watch out, world. Your boy's on the way. And it turned out so freaking good. I got to say, it was amazing. It was really amazing. And then my second win of the week is in my pursuit of understanding more, right? I am continuing to learn my Bible and really get into my Bible and whatnot. And I found a resource through Notion. Notion is a platform that I don't even know how you would describe Notion. Maybe you can back me up on this one, Chris. How would you
a really good notes taking platform? That's what I would probably call it.
Yeah, pretty much. Right. I found a template for the Bible, and it was absolutely beautiful. It had place where I can do like daily reading. I can keep my notes. I can take notes on different chapters. It had everything from like where this person was located, all the cities, all the people, everything. It's just a complete database of the Bible, and something that I can add to myself and create notes and kind of go back and really continue my spiritual journey as I dive deep into following Jesus. But those are my two wins of the week. I hope you guys have wins of the week yourself. And if you would like, feel free to drop them in the comments. We love to celebrate wins of the week with you guys down below. But with that being said, that is going to be it for our podcast today. Chris, did we have any action steps, anything that you want to drop before this pod ends?
Yeah, the big action step is the same one that it's been. It's just question everything. Question everything you think you know. And once you think you know it, continue to question it, because man never steps into the same river twice. Just because you question something once and you found it to be true, that doesn't mean that it's going to stay true indefinitely. Things always change. Everything that has a beginning has an end. And that has to do also with truth, with what you believe to be true. So I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast. Hope you enjoyed the biggest money lies, 17 of them that I've talked about over the last 10 years of being a financial advisor, almost 11 years of being a financial advisor now. Stick around. We have some fun podcasts coming up, another guest, some more learnings of things that I've done in my travel. So stick around. We enjoy you guys. Leave a comment. But most importantly, if you guys got value from today's podcast, and if you're still here and you didn't get value, I don't know what's happening in your life. You must be very bored. But please share the Fi Guys with one friend. Tell somebody, a friend, a family member, someone that you would like to take on this journey of financial independence, because it's so much more fun to go with a friend than to go alone. This journey of financial independence is a long one, and it's so much better if you can gamify it, have somebody to lean on, someone to pick you up when you fall, and someone to pick up when they fall. So tell a friend, tell somebody, leave a comment for the algorithm, all that good stuff. God bless. We love you. Later, guys.
Peace.
This video podcast is sponsored by Mons on Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monsonwealth.com.